Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Dan Hiscock, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Colonel Frank Colley. Today marks the 105th anniversary of the Battle of Semakh, which was the last action fought as part of the Battle of Megiddo in the Sinai-Palestine campaign of the First World War. Since the 19th of September 1918, the day the Battle of Megiddo had begun, the Australian Mounted Division, part of Lieutenant General Sir Harry Chevelle's Desert Mounted Corps, had advanced from their start line near Jaffa to Baizan, a distance of over 120 kilometres. The 11th Light Horse Regiment, along with part of the 12th Light Horse Regiment and the 4th Light Horse Machine Gun Squadron, rode out from Baizan in the early hours of the 25th of September 1918 to capture Semakh and its garrison of Ottoman and German troops. As the 11th Light Horse Regiment neared the Semakh railway station, they came under machine gun and rifle fire. Two squadrons formed up and charged towards the railway station buildings, the key to the enemy's defences. As the Australians neared the buildings, heavy incoming fire took a toll on men and horses. The light horsemen dismounted and continued their charge on foot. Over the next hour, they fought a close quarters battle with rifle, bayonet and sword, going room to room, where no quarter was asked or given. The other light horse squadrons moved to the east and west of Semakh to cut off any attempts at escape. At the conclusion of the battle, 98 Ottoman and German soldiers had been killed and over 350 had been taken prisoner. More than half of the prisoners were German. The Battle of Semakh cost the Australian 4th Light Horse Brigade dearly. Their faithful mounts had suffered 61 killed and a further 27 wounded. Of the men, 14 had been killed and 37 wounded, 2 of whom would die from those wounds. The story of just one of these, Corporal Jack Wall, will be told shortly. This evening we are honoured to acknowledge Mr Simon Case, Cabinet Secretary and Head of the Civil Service, United Kingdom, accompanied by Her Excellency Mrs Vicky Treadell, British High Commissioner to Australia, and Brigadier Nigel Best, British Defence Advisor, Mr David Calhoun, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Boeing Company, accompanied by the Honourable Dr Brendan Nelson, Senior Vice President, the Boeing Company, and our former Chairman and Director of the Australian War Memorial, Miss Maria Fernandez, President, Boeing Australia, New Zealand and the South Pacific, and the accompanying delegation. This evening we warmly welcome the recipients of the Gallipoli Scholarship in attendance. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Service Clubs Association, and we welcome those members watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and players from the Australian Under-18s Rugby Union team. Now, if you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Soil and wealth for toil,
If you wish to and you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read just one of the stories behind those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lance Corporal John Wall. John Wall was born on the 8th of April 1891 in Narrabri, New South Wales. Known as Jack, he was one of 8 children born to Charles and Emily Wall, proprietors of Narrabri's commercial hotel. At the outbreak of the First World War in 1914, Jack was working as a farmer near his hometown, where he was known as a splendid horseman. Jack Wall enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 11th of August 1915. He was assigned to reinforcements of the 12th Light Horse Regiment and commenced a short period of training in Australia. He embarked for active service just 3 months later, sailing from Sydney on board the troop ship Uganda. After several weeks at sea, Private Wall arrived in Egypt, where he joined other new recruits and veterans of the recently abandoned Gallipoli campaign. Over the months which followed, they continued a routine of training as the AIF underwent a period of reorganisation. In May 1916, Wall's unit returned to its mounted role, joining forces defending the Suez Canal. During this period, he gained the nickname Bawley, as he and his comrades undertook patrols and expeditions into the Sinai Desert. This routine continued until early 1917, when the 12th Light Horse moved into Palestine and joined the main advance. In April, Wall took part in his first major battle of the war, when his unit took part in the second attempt to capture the Turkish stronghold of Gaza. When this attack failed, Wall and his comrades were drawn into plans to capture the city by outflanking it through an attack on the town of Beersheba in October 1917. On the first day of the battle, the 12th Light Horse made a legendary charge on the town after being unleashed on Beersheba at the gallop. Its efforts helped to secure the Allies' objectives, which resulted in the capture of Gaza on the 7th of November 1917. Afterwards, as Turkish resistance began to collapse, Wall and his comrades pursued the enemy, which was retreating towards Syria. Wall spent Christmas of 1917 in hospital and afterwards took several months to rest and train with his unit before moving into the Jordan Valley in mid-1918. Wall and his comrades were involved in a major raid when Allied forces attacked the village of Ez Salt. After heavy fighting, Allied forces were made to withdraw, but had been successful in convincing the enemy to expect an attack across the Jordan rather than the coastal plain, which was their true objective. Wall was made Lance Corporal, and he and his comrades manned the west bank of the Jordan River before joining the advance along the Palestine coast in mid-September. Aiming to capture the Syrian capital of Damascus, the mounted forces penetrated deep into the enemy's rear defences and began severing their communications links. On the 25th of September, Wall and his comrades were sent to capture Semakh, a strategic point on the Damascus railway line. They advanced on their objective just before dawn and came under heavy fire, but Allied forces successfully overwhelmed the enemy and began taking their objectives. Wall and his comrades had been attacking the railway station when enemy forces inside revealed a white flag in surrender. Wall set his rifle down and made his way over to secure the prisoners when a German soldier reached for his revolver and fired. Wall was hit through the head and killed instantly. One of his comrades recalled, "Bawley was well known throughout the squadron and was very popular and was always looked upon as a first-class soldier, setting a fine example to other men when in action. Wall was buried by his comrades on the edge of Lake Tiberias, alongside others killed at Semakh. Their remains were later reburied at Haifa War Cemetery in Israel. Jack Wall was 28 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Corporal John Wall, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We'll leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.